Hey guys, Mars Thinking here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so I mentioned at the end of the video I did this morning, going over the heroes details, that the Beerus had gotten a Super Easy A. At the time, obviously it had only been posted on the JP Twitter, because for some reason Global is just not going to post these, despite every single time, like, the comments are being spammed with people saying, you know, post these on the English, like on the English Twitter, but they just won't for some reason. So we have to wait for the translations to come out, you know, despite the fact they can post all the new info, like when a new unit comes out, like Slug, these new heroes units, they post all the details on both versions, but for some reason Global just doesn't get to know the Easy A details. So shout out to Minato for doing the translations. I did put a link to this post as a pinned tweet in the heroes one, because like I say, when I finished going over all the heroes information, the translations weren't out yet, and I added the comment a little bit later. But the funny thing is, I saw he'd posted the tweet, so I linked the comment in the chat, like in the comments for the video, so people could see it, but I hadn't actually read it. And then I saw some comments from some people, like Talus messaged me, like saying Beerus seems really, really good. And so funnily enough, I hadn't actually read it, so I wasn't necessarily going to even make this video until I then read his details and realized how good he seems. So I wanted to do this just to make sure, for anyone who hasn't seen, that you know how good he is, and of course get my thoughts on him. We're also going to look at like some of the teams that he's on and stuff like that, because this seems very, very interesting. Now bear in mind, this is also part of like the Slug celebration, which is still ongoing, despite the fact that the Heroes celebration has started already. Still very confusing as to why they've chosen to release it all like this, but this should come out, because these details came out on Twitter today at the same time as all the hero stuff. Then I imagine his Super Easy A is just going to be available on the same day that the Heroes banner comes out, which is now looking like it is Tuesday morning for the UK, late Monday evening if you're in the US, despite all the stuff that I'd seen before that made me think it was going to be out on the 11th for me. But we still don't know. We haven't had the data download yet. So unless we get the data download tomorrow and it literally says the banner comes out in like 2 hours or something, then yeah, Heroes is potentially going to be Tuesday. But once we know for sure, I will let you guys know. Anyway, Beerus's Easy A details. So his passive, 3 key and attack and defense 160%, attack and defense 160, and a high chance to crit when performing a super attack. So he already has a 50% chance to crit as part of his super. And the way that these usually work with like the wording, you know, like the 6-year anniversary LRs, is that if he does an additional super, he will then have a guaranteed crit, because he has a 50% chance on the first one, and then when he does the second one, it goes up to 100% chance to crit. So obviously he doesn't need any crit in his hidden potential, so it does mean potentially a bit of a rebuild for this guy. I think mine is actually built for like full crit, which is kind of annoying. He has guard and an extra 160% defense when there is a movie boss's Realm of Gods or Exploding Rage ally attacking in the same turn. I mean, this is nuts, because like any team that you run him on, like think of any of the teams that you would ever run a Beerus on, you're gonna have one of these allies on the team at least. So attacking in the same turn, I mean, his best link partners are Realm of Gods units, and the only teams I can really think to run him outside of Exploding Rage would be movie bosses or Realm of Gods, or at least on teams where, you know, like if we think about all the categories that he's actually on, which isn't a huge amount, but he's on things like Space Traveling Warriors, Legendary Existence, Battle of Fate, Planetary Destruction. There's a lot of crossover with these categories, so it's going to be very, very easy to get that, and it's just guaranteed guard and extra defense, so that's really good. Attack and defense 40% up to 160 with each attack received, so he's going to get another 160% defense as well. Then he has 30% damage reduction if your HP is 30% or more, and then another 30% damage reduction when HP is 60% or more. So when you're 60% or more HP, he's going to have 60% damage reduction. As long as he has his ally, right, he's got 320% defense and guard, and then on super gets 160% defense, and it's on super. So that means it's multiplicative, which means it's going to be a massive buff, especially once he's fully built up and has that extra 160% from his passive as well. Because remember, with Super Easy A's, they don't change the super attack effect. And so Beerus's is just immense damage to the enemy and greatly lowers defense. So having all these extra stacks in his really, really good. And then, yeah, all of that while having 60% damage reduction based on your HP. So if you do start the turn at 30% or above, but below 60, then you're only going to have 30%. But his raw defense after supering plus guard is probably high enough that that still will allow him to tank some pretty big hits. Then he also has a great chance to launch an additional super when HP is 60% or below. So if you're bang on 60%, you actually have the extra damage reduction and the extra super, but that's obviously very hard to be spot on the exact 60%, right? And then he gives super class allies 2 key and 30% attack, and extreme class allies 2 key and 30% defense. So this guy will be super good, even if you just want to run him as like a floating unit on like a movie boss's team or something. He's still going to be really good because he gets so much of his stats on super attack. Like, he's going to be perfectly fine as a slot 3 character. So this is actually nuts. Like, I think it's pretty much straight up that he is the best Super EZA now, right? Because my opinion originally, it was Kid Buu, and then I think Broly kind of took the top spot because Broly is a support unit that was doing a bunch of damage and has really good defense and stuff as well. But this guy, rather than building up, like Broly builds up damage reduction as he attacks, and then he wants rainbow orbs, which he does create when you have certain allies, but that does limit his team building a little bit. But like Beerus, the restriction are literally just for the only characters you would really run him with anyway. And then he's providing support. He should, when he's fully built up, he should hit like a truck, have really high raw defense, and has guard, and potentially 60% damage reduction. Like, the only time he feels like he could be a liability is if you do start the turn at 30% or less less HP. Well, it'd have to be 29% or less. Then obviously at that point you're kind of in trouble anyway, right? Unless you have a healer on the rotation. But he's still going to have really solid defense and guard after supering. So, like, he actually seems cracked. And the fact that he can be run on so many of these teams with, like, it very easy to have an ally. We have said this many times before, though, whenever there's been a new Beerus or a Beerus gets an EZA or something, we really need a new Whis that is, like, really good and, like, meta relevant. And then the rotation of these guys, especially if they made that Whis, like, a super good slot 1 unit. Because maybe when this guy's fully built up, he's getting the extra 160 from his passive. He's got the 160 from having the right ally and the 160 from base with guard and damage reduction. There is the possibility that his raw defense is going to be high enough that he can actually just go in slot 1, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, he seems really, really good. Like, if we switch over to the wiki, like, as you can see, his super attack effect, nothing crazy. Obviously his leader skill doesn't change with a super EZA, which is nothing really important either. But the one thing they don't mention in that post is that this Beerus has a rage mode as well. Now the condition, I'm guessing it won't change, although actually it does happen automatically. It's not an active skill. So the condition actually could change with his super EZA as well. Rage is when HP is 40% or less up to 2 times. So he can go into the rage mode and it can be twice. And he super attacks early. He has 3 different super attacks. So with the super EZA, obviously they can't change the super attack effects, I guess, because they don't with the normal part of these cards. But they can give him a passive. So they can give him extra key. They can give him like greatly, like massively raises attack. I don't know how they would do it for a passive, because obviously when they EZA giant form characters, they normally give them like a super attack modifier where it's like massively raise attack temporarily or something like that. So I guess they'd have to do something in his passive where it's like massively raises attack temporarily when performing a super or something like that. But the fact that this guy has a rage mode and it can be used twice, so this guy could be absolutely insane. And like I say, hands down, seeming like he could be the best super EZA. And then as well, if we take a look here, these are the 200% leads that he's on. So Int Broly, Tech Broly, the Saiyans that have no limits, Gohan, these two not really meta relevant anymore, neither is Rudigan or Turles, but he's also on Lord Slug's 200%. Now he's not a demonic power character, he is a Space Traveling Warriors character, which does help out Bojack if you're running him on the team, and Bojack obviously will support Beerus. But yeah, either Slug or both the Broly teams, this Beerus is going to be actually really good, and funnily enough, both the Brolys are movie bosses, they're also Exploding Rage. Lord Slug is a movie boss character, so even without these guys being Realm of Gods, like Beerus still gets his full passive active to get his extra defense and guard. So he is going to be absolutely insane on these teams. And then if we take a look at his links, now obviously his links aren't the craziest for some of these extreme teams, right? No big bad bosses. He's Godly Power, Prodigies, Connoisseur, Innocence, Shocking Speed, and Fierce Battle, because sadly he is a 6-link unit, which is annoying. He shares 6 links with these guys. Unfortunately, they do have their Easy 8 already, and they're pretty outdated now, which is a shame. He does share 5 links with the Sleepy Beerus, who was okay for a free-to-play unit. And then, yeah, like the 4 link partners, like this Vados and Whis, pretty outdated. This guy doesn't have his Easy 8, though, STR Whis, that came out with Physical Beerus. So hopefully he could get one soon. He does share 3 links with the AGL Broly, who will be interesting on that Broly team. They share Prodigy, Shocking Speed, and Fierce Battle, so means a little bit of key, and then a decent chunk of attack and a tiny bit of defense, but that's quite interesting. And then obviously he does have links with these guys for Realm of Gods teams. Goku obviously is an Exploding Rage character, although of course not part of his leader skill, because Goku leads Pure Saiyans, Hyper Saiyans. Margarita, that just got her Easy A and is really good at supporting other like Realm of Gods and Bond of Master and Disciple characters. Obviously not Universe 11, but she still gives support to these other characters. So yeah, I mean, his links are probably his biggest weakness, but overall he seems really, really good. Like I say, shout out to Minato for the translations, but yeah, this guy seems absolutely cracked. He is probably the best Super Easy A. I can't wait to see if they do indeed change his Rage Mode condition. I will let you guys know, and what they do update his Rage Mode passive to be, because yeah, that's another thing. Like, even without a Rage Mode, I would say he's probably the best Super Easy A now, but with the Rage Mode as well, I would imagine with his passive having these 30% like restrictions, it's probably 30% or less. But if they want you to see it more often, and the fact you can do it twice, it could still be 40% or less, could even be 50% or less, because then at least when you come out of the Rage Mode, you're still at the 30% or above marker, so he's still going to have 30% damage reduction. He'll lose the extra 30 and the chance to do an additional super, but you'll have just done the Rage Mode, which cancels out enemy super attacks. So like, yeah, he seems absolutely nuts. Let me know your thoughts on Beerus down below in the comment section. But yeah, he seems crazy, and I can't wait to use him in-game. So let me know what you guys think down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.